So in the yesterday's session, we discussed about OOPS concepts. Okay, it's taking time. Okay, so we discussed about OOPS concepts, basics concepts like class, what is class and what is object. Okay, what is constructor, what is the use of self variable, and what is the use of instance method and instance variables we discussed. Okay, based on this example. Okay, this is a class, object oriented class. The student is object oriented class, and this is an constructor. Okay, these are all instance variables that we can declare at the constructor level, and this is the instance method, and here we initialize the object with values, and this is the instance method we are calling based on the object reference. Okay, this is all about a basic object oriented class. So what are the differences between the method and the constructor? Now, what are the differences between the method and constructor? Okay, method, the first difference is it's an interview question actually. So the first difference is name of the method can be anything. We can observe in the line number 10, I have given the method name my own, right? Based on the class. Here I created a student class. So for this student class, I have created a method called display student info. Display student info. So this is my own method. I have created my method, and I'm trying to print the information about the student details. Okay, constructor name should be always underscore init underscore. So underscore init means initialization. So what is the use of constructor here? Just remember it. Constructor is a special method in Python. The name of the constructor should be like this. Constructor will be executed automatically at the time of object creation. That is the reason they have designed the name of the constructor like initialization, init. Okay. So, and method name will be executed if you call that method. See, I am not calling this method for the student one object. Okay, if I execute this class, you can observe in the console how many student information got executed. Student 1, I have passed the student information, right? Name, age and marks. But in the student 2 also, I have passed another student information, the student 2 object, but I am calling the student 2 object, student display information method for the student 2. But for the student 1, I am not calling. So then what happened? The first object information is not able to print it. So that is the reason method will be executed if you call that method. Otherwise, the method cannot be executed. Coming to constructor, constructor will be executed automatically at the time of object creation. You can observe here, how can these three variables are coming? Because these three are instance variables we declared at the constructor level. We are calling, whenever we are calling an object, automatically these three will be initiated. That is the reason these three variables are initiated, and we are using these variables in our method. Wherever the method we are declared the variables using self keyword, we are utilizing the keywords, variables, and we are finally printing that information. So constructor will be executed automatically at the time of object creation here only, and that at the time of object creation, constructor will be executed. And per object method can call any number of times. You can observe here. So per object method can call any number of times. S1 dot display student info. See, it is printing 2 times of this object information, right? Student information. But per object constructor will be executed only once. constructor will be executed only once per object. For this object, initially constructor will be executed only once, and for this object, constructor will be executed only once. See, S1 is equal to student object, S2 is equal to another student object. So inside method, we can write a business logic. Business logic is nothing but the code, the Python code. Why if condition, it might be required based on your requirement, or for loop might be required, or you are going to convert your string into lower to uppercase. All any logic, any business logic is nothing but your Python code. So business logic, we can write the business logic in the method. But coming to constructor, we have to declare and initialize the instance variable. See, we are not writing any business logic here. We are just initialize the instance variables. Okay, we are just initialize. We have to declare the variables, and we are initializing with the self keyword. So this is the major differences between the constructor and method. See, in the same example of a class, so you can find a method here, and you can find a constructor. You can see the differences between the constructor and methods here only. Okay. So anyway, in the notes, there is a table of these both differences. I will share you. Okay. So until this, the basic program is completed. So next topic. Okay. So we are covered up to class, object, and up to object. Now, class object, normal, I mean, object oriented class, and what is the object, how to call the objects and everything, we have discussed. Now, types of methods, sorry, types of variables. How many variables a object oriented class is you are available? Like how many variables are available in the object oriented class? How can we use them? Okay. How many methods are there in the object oriented class? How can we use them? Okay. All those things. The first variable is called instance variable. We can call it as a object level variable. So what is instance variable? Okay. If if the value of the variable is varied from object to object, then such type of variables are called instance variables. I will write here. I'll arrange instance variable. Okay, the value of the variable is varied from object to object, then such type of variables are called instance variables. Okay, each and every object instance variables will be different. You can observe in the same class. See, here we declared the variable type. Okay, name, age, and marks. But what about the value of this instance variable? For this object, student one object, what are the values? Hari, and age is 25 and marks are 20. Okay, and coming to student two object, name is different. I mean Shiva, and age is 29 and marks are 88. See, this is the best example of instance variable. The main definition. If the value of the variable, this is the variable, this is the value, right? Hari is the value, name equal to Hari, means name is a variable name. What is the value of the variable? Hari, right? If the value of the variable is varied to object, so you can see, you can observe the first object, the value is what? Hari, 2580. What about the second object value? Shiva, 2988. Okay, this is nothing but a these kind of variables, we can call it as instance variables. For every object, a separate copy of instance variable will be created. See, for this object, separate copy of instance variable is created. This object, a separate copy of instance variable is created. Now I'm going to create a s3 equal to student of, okay, star, okay, comma, age, the mark. Okay, so here I'm going to call this S3 object, S3 dot display information. Same method we are reusing. Okay, that is called reusability. Okay, see, for every object there is a separate copy. That's the reason I have created 3 objects here. Okay, so where we can declare a instance variables. Okay, we discussed about what is instance variable, where we can the definition of the instance variable. Okay, now the first point is here, where we can declare the instance variables. First point is inside constructor, right? Inside constructor by using self variable, self default variable. No, we discussed about self. Self is nothing but this keyword in Python or Java. So we are going to, what is the use of this keyword in Java? It refers the current object. Same here, self is the current object. It's a default variable in Python. So inside instance, hmm, instance method by using self variable, or say outside of the class by using object reference. Okay, these are the 3 ways you can create a instance variable. Now we are going to write those 3 ways here. Okay, this is a simple program, and here, okay, I'm going to write that. There is a class. I'm going to create a class employee. Employee is a class. Here I'm going to write a constructor. Right? Constructor self dot e number equal to 100. I'm directly initializing it. Okay, not declaring. And self dot e name equal to something Shiva. Employee name self dot e salary equal to 10,000. And I have created a constructor. There is no instance method I have created. Now I'm creating a object. Okay, e equal to employee of simple constructor I have created. Okay, int of e dot underscore dict. See, the usage of this underscore functions means it is if you are using any function which starts with underscore and ends with underscore, that should be print the internal implementation, how that object is considering internally. Okay, that should be print in that format for us. We can customize that format. There is a function called dict, right? This underscore dict will be print the above instance variables in a dictionary format. That is the intention here. See, the first way of creating a instance variables, the first way, what is the first way? Inside a constructor by using a self variable. That is what we are doing here. Inside a constructor, see, this is a constructor. Within a constructor by using self, where self is there? Self is the mandatory default variable which is available in the constructor. We are going to initialize this instance variable with self variable. We can declare instance variables inside a constructor by using self keyword. Once we create an object, automatically these variables will be added to the object. Once we create an object, where we are creating object, line number 6. See, a simple constructor we have written in the this simple program to demonstrate the declaring the instance variable in the constructor. Okay, In this constructor, I have declared three instance variable e number, e name, and e salary. After that, I have created a employee object, and then I want to print the information about the instance variables. Automatically, these variables will be added to the object. See, I am not added the and extended. I am not adding the objects here. I mean, the object, sorry, instance variable value. So you can observe here, we have declared an instance variable and we are initialize it like this, and we are passing the instance variable values here through object. Okay, because we are having a number of objects we are creating. If we are having a number of objects, I mean, if you are creating a number of objects for a single class, you can declare like this. In the real time only, we can declare like this. No, I know the instance of only one object I have created. Okay, I am going to use that particular class information, whatever instance variables or methods available in the class. I'm going to create only one object. In that situation, you can use this approach. Okay, both are valid. This is for directly we are hard coding. We are initializing the values to a instance variable in the constructor level. Here we are initialize the variable and we are sending the values from the object level. Okay, these both are different approaches. So in the real time, we will use this approach only, but this is the one of the approach. In some cases, some strictly some like in administration point of view, we are passing only these values. So we want to generate some reports. In that situation, so we can use this approach. Okay, so now I am going to print it. See, employee number, name, and salary will be printed in the dictionary format. Okay, when in the first approach of declaring constructor, sorry, instance variable. And what about the second way? Inside instance method by using self variable. What is the second way? Inside instance method. Now I'm going to change this approach. Okay, this is the first approach. Second way is inside instance method. So what is the definition? How can we declare in the instance method? We can also declare instance variable inside instance method by using self variable. If any instance variable declared instance method, that instance variable will be added to once we call that method. Okay, now we can check the difference between the declaring the instance variable. This is the constructor level. Now I'm going to create one instance method. Therefore, one is my method name. Okay, because instance method is what? We can give our own method name, right? So enter it. So self dot e address equal to okay, Hyderabad. So now I am going to call the instance method, right? Otherwise, how can it print? You can see if you are not calling the instance method, it is printing only constructor by default. Why the constructor? Constructor is going to be printed. Constructor will be executed at the time of object creation. Here we created an object in the line number 9. So at the time of object creation, automatically constructor will be executed. What are the things in the constructor? We already initialized an instance variable in the constructor. These instance variable will be executed at the object creation level and these will be printed by using this print. Okay, now I am not calling instance method. So but I already declared one instance variable by using with the help of self keyword. So how can we utilize that instance variables? So the thing is here, if any instance variable declared in instance method, that instance variable will be added once we call that method. Otherwise, it cannot be added. So now I'm going to call this method e dot m1. Okay, the fourth value will be updated here. Okay, this is the another way to to add the instance variables. Okay, two ways we are discussed. And what about the third way? Third way is nothing but outside of the class by using object reference. Outside of the class by using object reference. Simple. See here. E dot E is a object reference, right? E dot E dot okay. Employee phone number. E dot employee phone number equal to something. Okay, this is the employee phone number. This is the third way. Okay, I'm going to write a comment here. First way of instance variable creation. This is a second way of instance variable. This is the third way. Okay, third way of instance variable creation. You can check now. See, phone number will be also added to this dictionary print statement. So these are the three ways you can utilize. You can create a instance variables. Okay, in the real time, you can observe here. We have initialized the variable. Okay, and this same variables we are calling in the instance method. We are sending the values at the object level. Okay, this is also another way. So in the real time we can use like this, but some situation if you want to initialize a variable instance variable in this specifically, especially this method, for example self dot address equal to what? Self dot address equal to Hyderabad. Okay, now I want to write a print for this, right? Print of self dot address. See, Hyderabad. So we have created an instance variable in the instance method. This is the second way. Inside a instance method, by using self variable, I have created an instance variable. So there is a requirement. Sometimes we have already constructed a object oriented class. Sometimes we want to update our logic. Okay, based on the latest requirement. In that situations, we can use this approach also. That is the reason we can inject this instance variable creation in the instance method like this and just print it. That's it. It is going to be printed. Okay, so this is also another way. See, we covered three ways. This is the third one. See, outside of a class based on the object reference. See, this is the employee is what? Object reference variable. By using that, I have created another instance variable. Okay, these are the ways we can create a instance variables. Now, how to access the instance variables? As of now, we created three ways. How can you access it? We can access the instance variable within a class by using self variable, and outside of the class by using object reference. See, you can observe here within the class, okay, by using self variable, okay, self default variable, we can access the instance variable. But outside of a class, this is the outside of a class. Whenever you created an object for a class, that should be outside of a class. Okay, because this logic, class related logic, is ongoing here. Okay, but you can observe outside of a class should be once you create once you created an object, that object creation starts at the class declaration level. See, you can observe here on line number 11 and line number 1, both are in the same line. So then it should becomes outside of a class. There is no syntaxes closing opening braces like Java. Okay, once you start declaring a object here like this, then that should be end of the before line is line number 10 is the end of the class. Okay, outside of a class by using what object reference. See, E is equal to employee. What is the E here? E is a object reference. E dot self E dot instance variable. Okay, how to access the instance variables? Thus we can access the instance variable within a class by using self keyword, sorry, self variable, not keyword, self default variable, and outside of a class by using object reference. Okay, how to delete the instance variable from the object? Okay, within the class we can delete instance variable as del self dot variable name. Outside of a class by using object reference. See, now I am going to use this. You can observe here in this here I created what address. I'm going to do one thing, another one. Self dot address is there. Mail ID. Mail ID equal to something called. This is the mail ID. Now I'm going to on this. See, it is also added after Hyderabad. I mean after address in the instance method. Mail ID is also added. Now last one is phone number that we are adding from the object reference. Now I want to delete some other variable. Okay, so del self dot mail id. Del self dot mail id. What will happen? This will going to be deleted. See, mail id got deleted. Okay, I want to delete phone number. I want to delete phone number. Del e dot employee phone number. You can delete this also. Number is also deleted. Only this employee number, name, salary, address will be printed in the final dictionary. Okay, these are the ways you can utilize the instance variable, updating the instance variable, deleting the instance variable, declaring the instance variables. Okay, so we are having some example programs so that you can practice in the like after the session, and that today I will share the notes. Okay, so what is the next variable? So as of now, we discussed about instance variable, and what about the next variable called static variable? What is called static variable? We can call it as a class level variable. Okay, it is called class level variable. If the value of a variable is not varied from object to object, okay, but coming to instance variable, it will be vary from object to object, right? We are giving different values, but we have declared one instance variable only once, and we can pass the different to data. You can observe in this example, right? Here you can observe we have declared an instance variable in the constructor, and we are passing different values at the object level. But coming to static variable, it's purely opposite. If the value of a variable is not varied from object to object, such type of variables we have to declare within a class directly, but outside of the methods. Within a class directly, but outside of a method. Such type of variables are called static variables. So the value of the variable is not varied from object to object. It is strictly the same value you can utilize in the class everywhere. That is the intention here, to remove the memory loads, right? So if you are using instance variables, what is happening? Each and every instance variable at the time of object creation, there is a memory will be created internally in the Python virtual machine. So that memory needs to be stored into where in the memory of the virtual machine, and that should be converted as a machine code, something ones and zeros. That's an internal story, but it will create a additional memory. But coming to static variables, what is the use of static keyword, static class, static block, static variable, anything? that comes with the statics even in Java, Python, .NET, Ruby, or any JavaScript, any programming language. Static means once we declare it, we can reuse it. In generic word called static values, dynamic values in the HTML point of view. See, static means you cannot change it, right? Once you created a HTML page that is showing welcome, welcome some dashboard. So you can observe that the generic difference example called Facebook. If I logged as a Facebook user with my account, it is showing what welcome Vishwanath Facebook. If you logged as a your account, I mean logged as with your credentials, it will show what welcome Suresh Facebook. Welcome Facebook welcome Facebook are static values. That is common for everyone. That is not changing. But what about the name? The name is keep on changing based on the user. That is a dynamic, because once we logged with our credentials, based on our credentials, the value will be changing. The dynamic value will be assigning to between the welcome and Facebook text. So that the combination of static and dynamic data you can observe in that Facebook dashboard page. Same here. Static means what? Every time they are not creating an object for the welcome Facebook. They have created an object only once. They have declared those instance variables only once, and they are, the variables as a static variable. That's not instant. Sorry. So they have created a welcome Facebook both variables as a static, and they are reusing it every time. But what about the instance variable? In that case, your name is the instance variable. Same like as here you can observe. So we are changing the name, right, every time for the each and every employee. So, but here you can observe address is the same. This is nothing but a static, but we cannot declare in the class. But I'm just explaining the basic example. We can declare outside of a class. Sorry, method. Okay. So for such type of here such type of variables have to declare within a class directly, but outside of a methods. Okay, not here. Okay, and such type of variables are called static variables. For total class, only one copy of static variable will be created and shared by the all objects. That is the intention here, right? We can access the static variables either by class name or by object reference, but recommended to use by class name. Okay, now variable places of static variables to declare. Okay, the same that we discussed for instance variables, right? Here few more points will be added. Okay, to declare a static variables inside, sorry, in general we can declare within the class directly, but from outside of any method. Okay, now the first point is inside constructor by using class name. Okay, this is the first way. Inside instance method by using, here the difference between by using class name, so that it can be reused every time. Inside as a method, that is the third way of third type of method. We are having instance methods, static methods, and class methods. Three types of methods also there. Same like as a variables. So inside class method by using either class name or class variable. And what about the fourth one? Inside static method by using class name. Okay, these are the four ways. Now we are going to one by one. First way. What is the first way here? Take the same example. Okay. So here you can observe the first way is what? Outside of a uh, inside constructor by using a class name. Inside constructor by using a class name. You can observe here inside constructor. This is the constructor. Okay, I will create a separate class. Otherwise it will be confusion. Okay. Class static variable, some class name a equal to 10. This is a static variable that we are creating outside of a method. This is the one way. Okay. Def, I'm going to create a constructor, enter. Okay, what is the class name? Static variable test dot b equal to 20. This is the another way. Inside a constructor. Again, def means method prototype. Def m1 of self. This is a instance method, right? See, difference between instance method, static method, and class methods that will come future. I mean, after this concept. But as of now, instance method should be starts. The parameter should starts with the self keyword. Okay. So, and class name. What is the class name here? Inside instance method, static by using class name dot c equal to 30. Okay. This is the instance method. What about another method? We are having three types of methods, right? Okay. The class method. I will explain about this. Don't worry. So as of now, just listen it. M2 is the another method. See, for class variable, there is no self. Okay. It's a class. CLS variable we can use. CLS variable dot D equal to 40. This is the class method. Def static method. This is a static method. Method declaration should like this. And M3, no self keyword for the static method. Okay. So because static method is what? Reusability purpose. If you declare a self, that should be different, right? So when we going to declare a self, so self variable, we can use it in instance methods and initialization and instance variable initialization. What is the instance variable prototype? Each and every object, the new value we are going to change it. But self, it's totally different. That's what the reason we are not use self keyword in the self variable in the static methods. Okay. So now again in the static method, class name dot e equal to 50. You can observe I am giving multiple variables. So it's done. Now you can check it. Print of static dot underscore dictionary. You can check. See here internally you can check it. There should be M2, M3 dictionaries. See internally M1 and static variable test dot M1 at some object will be created. Now internally, because whenever we are see this is the first variable. How can we declare this variable? In the line number 2, outside of a we declared a static variable outside of a method, right? Outside of a method we have declared it. So this is executed automatically at the time of class execution. We are not created any object here, but this variable already executed and it is available for us utilization purpose, right? Now I am going to create a object for this class. Okay, equal to, because I want to call this methods, right? Is a instance method, there is a class method, there is a static method. I want to call these methods, then only we can execute the method content. Otherwise, we cannot execute it, right? So, but this we can observe here automatically the static variable we have declared outside of a class. This will be executed without creating an object level only. That is the major difference between instance variable and static variable. Static variable can be executed okay without calling the object. Okay, so that's the reason it is showing here. You can observe in the a equal to a value is 10. Slowly I am moving to the right side. Okay, this is all. Now we can observe the log difference. T is equal T is my object reference. So static, this is my class. I have created an object here. Now print of T dot dictionary. Print of T dot dictionary. Now you can. So when the constructor will be executed? At the time of object creation. Now you can see. It is not showing as T text T print. Okay. Oh, okay. I want to print combine. Okay, and I created an object reference. Now I'm going to print of T dot 1. Again, printing it, print of T dot underscore dictionary. You can see. Okay. It is not printing. Yes, there is no print statement here. That's the reason it's static variable B, static variable C, and static variable D, and 3. T dot M1 print of test. Okay, we are not declared any print statements here. That is the reason it is not printing. I'll do one thing. Print of it's printed the static variable like this. Okay, so now this is the way we can declare a static variables in a normal class using different approaches. It's a high level class. So now we are going to use one by one. The first way is what we just declared, right? So we want to print them, otherwise it cannot be printed. So a equal to 10, and we have created a constructor and one static instance method, class method, and static method. Now we can use the print statements here. Print of okay, self dot b, self dot self dot a. Sorry. And here you can observe print of self dot a and print of t dot self dot c. You can see the difference here. See, the values are keep on printing here. You can observe initially we are trying to create we have created an object here. Okay, t equal to static variable test. After that, I am trying to print the entire object information. At that time, 10 is printing because that is declared outside of a class. After that, I am calling this M1. M1 means what is there in the M1? See, I am trying to print self.a. After that, I am trying to print self.c. So it is printing self.c means this variable, this value, right? Like this, we can print it. But now one by one, we will check it. So we can access the output. We can access now. I'm going to call the T2 also. T dot M2. If you have written any print statement in the M2, it is going to be printed the values. So M2, M3. We don't have any print statements that it won't be printed basically. So if you want to print it, that particular value, whatever we declared in the M2 and M3, we can use the print statements. So like print of itself, something like t dot d. It will be print. So how can we modify the value of a static variable? I have declared the static variable in multiple ways. How can we modify? So anyway, either within a class or outside a class, we can modify the static variable by using class name, but inside a class method by using CLS variable. So here you can observe a equal to some 10, right? I want to modify this value. So directly you can change in this a value here in this class name. You can change the a value also. ls dot a equal to 50, so that automatically this a value will be updated to 50 from this class method. So this is also another way we can update the static variable from the class. Okay, inside a class method. Okay, we can modify inside a class method, or we can modify outside of a class at the time of after creation of object. We can modify by using class name also. Okay, these are the ways. So for the static variable. So the static variable is little bit confused because it is having we can declare the static variable in multiple places. So that is the reason it will be confused. And third one is how to delete a static variable from a class. Simple, the same approach that we discussed. We can delete the static variable from the class like this. Del keyword. Wherever you want to delete the static variable here, just del cls dot d. Del cls dot d. Automatically, this will be deleted the self variable. I mean the value. Static variable object reference line number 15. Okay, this is, see here, it is getting X error because we already deleted, but we are trying to print the value. See, D equal to something what CLS dot D equal to 40. I have deleted this variable, static variable in this class method by using del keyword. After that, I am trying to print it. So this is throwing an error. So static variable object reference has no attribute D. It's already deleted. So like this, we can delete the variable f from a static variable from a class. Okay, static variable. So this is all about static variables. And third one is local variable. Third one is what? Local variable means method level variables. So sometimes in the real time scenarios, we can give the temporary variables at a specific method. Let's say, for example, we're having two methods. One is student display information and student addresses. Okay, some of the students they are having multiple addresses. Some of the students are staying in hostels, so they are having a unique address, something like this. So depends on the requirements. So we want to update one new variable within the address method for a specific students. So how can we update that method? I want to add a new information in the student address method. So we can use these local variables to update that existing address for the specific students by using the local variables approach. So sometimes to meet temporary requirements of a programmer, we can declare variables inside a method directly. Such type of variables are called local variables are temporary variables. Local variables are temporary variables. Local variables will be created at the time of method execution and destroyed once the method is completed. Temporary variables. Okay. Local variables of a method cannot be accessed from outside of a method. We cannot be access local variable from outside of a class. So we already discussed about local and global variables in core Python, right? In the functions concept, when we are discussing about the functions concept, there are two types of variables Python will support in core Python programming. Okay, non-oops programming. Okay, there we're having two types of variables. One is local, another one is global. But coming to advanced Python, okay, in object oriented concepts, we are having three types of variables we are going to accept in the object oriented programming, because that logic of the way of logic writing a syntax of core Python is different and advanced Python is different, because these two are following different programming methodologies, right? So coming to here, local variables, right? So local variables is method level variables. Temporarily we can create for our requirement purpose. So after that we can destroy it. So how to create the local variables? Is a class just for m1, automatically self will be come, because this will be a instance method. We are not declaring constructor. Okay, but internally a default constructor will be executed. Okay, so now I'm declaring a value equal to a equal to 1000, some variable int of a. Okay, I'm creating another method called m2. Automatically self will come if you take braces. So m2 b equal to something, some value int of b. Now I'm going to create t equal to staff object for this class. Okay, t dot m1, t dot m1, t dot m2. See, these are the local variables that we declared at method level. Now I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to call a local variable which we declared in the method 1 in the method 2. See, name a is not defined because this a is mapped to this method level. Once this method execution is completed, this a will be destroyed. Okay, and this is not accessible from other method. So this is nothing but local variable declaration. So these are the three variables that we can use in our object oriented programming in the classes. So that depends upon the requirement. I will show you a another project just for your reference in the real time how we are using. Okay, before that we are going to shift to methods. Okay, once it is loaded I will show you. You can observe these are the three variables we already completed. How many types of variables are available, are accessing by the object oriented programming in Python? So what is the difference between static variable and instance variable? What is the difference between local variable and static variable? These are the basic interview questions people will ask. Okay, and next concept is instance method, static method, class methods. Okay, again the same variables whatever we discussed, those variables having a method form called instance, static, and class. Okay, this we will discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow actually I will be on traveling, so can we have a class? I think I will, it should be preponed around 6:30 a.m. Okay, um, usually we are starting 7:30 a.m. IST. I'm going to start 6:30 a.m. IST. Okay, because I will be on the traveling. So 6:30 to 7:30 I will take the class. Okay, uh, we are going to complete instance methods tomorrow. Sorry, all the three types of methods: instance method, class method, and static method. After that we will start second pillar of oops concepts. First pillar is what? Class. How to create a class, what is class, how to create an object, and what is object. Okay, so how many types of variables we can utilize in our object oriented class? Something called instance variable, static variable, class variable, and how many methods object oriented programming, how many types of methods object oriented programming will support: instance method, static method, and class methods. These are all the first basic concepts which are available in the OOPS concept part 1. Okay, if you know all these things, you can write a simple object oriented class by using all these things. Once you get a clarity by creating a object oriented class by using all these things, later we are going to use inheritance concept. So then we will move to the inheritance concept tomorrow onwards. Inheritance, see, Python will support 5 types of inheritance, not like Java will support single inheritance only. But Python you may confuse, because but by seeing those types of inheritance, but Python cannot confuse. So it will support 5 types of inheritance: single, multiple, multi-level, hierarchical, hybrid. So many inheritances Python is going to be support. That all we are going to discuss tomorrow. Okay, any doubts you can ask now.